Even if I've been hedge highlighting for years now, for most of that time I struggled with the same annoying thing, my shaky hands. But then something changed and I learned that even my shaky hands are able to paint pretty good hedge highlights with a couple of tricks. So today I'm gonna share with you what I did to beat my shaky hands, and how you can use these tricks to go from this to this just like I did. Before we begin, a quick reminder to subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this kind of content, and if you want more free weekly tips and hacks to explode your skills, don't forget to sub to my newsletter as well. Links down below. First, why you should learn to control your shaky hands. Well, truth is that learn to control better your shaky hands won't just impact on your hedge highlights, but it will also allow you to paint more precise base coats, paint texture and freehands, and increase your overall precision. There's a harsh truth about my shaky hands in particular, but before I tell you that, let me share the actual tricks you care about. Let's start for the easiest fix for shaky brushstrokes. This is like the foundation to build all your brushstroke on, but it's not a size-fits-all kind of deal. It's all about finding what works for you. Generally, when painting, you'll use two hands, one holding the mini and one holding the brush. Did I need to tell you that? Probably not, but now you know. Many people use handles to hold their miniatures to have a better grip, since most of you have pretty big, manly hands. This creates kind of a difference in height between the two ends. This might be a problem, but we're gonna fix that in the first hack anyway. And how you do it, you follow these simple rules. Start by resting both your arms on the table. Generally, the height of the desk should be higher than the average PC working desk, unless you're comfortable painting with both your elbows on the table, which, to be honest, is even better because you're gonna be able to get your mini close to your eyes without hurting your neck. But I cannot really do that. No. That's why I said it's not a size fits all. If you're like me and you can't paint with your elbows on the desk, you're gonna have to lower your chair or have a higher desk. So having height adjustable desk in this case is pretty important. Try to take up more space. Instead of resting your elbows only on the edges of a desk, have your whole forearm down on it. For the brush hand, it's the same. Find a place that's comfortable for you where you can rest your painting hand. If you're using a bigger painting handle, you have pretty much no choice than to rest your painting hand on your holding hand because of the difference in height. For how I paint, for example, handles are really uncomfortable to use because I prefer having my mini hand on the desk, so the mini needs to be as close to the desk as possible. And that's not always possible with a handle. That's why I use corks, where I can decide freely how big and how small they are. If you're having a particularly bad day, try this bonus tip of holding your breath before painting in line and exhaling when you're done. Definitely gonna help. So with these tricks, you fix your stability. You get more stable to paint better lines. But stability alone, it's not quite enough. See it like a three-man job, and stability is your first man. So who's the second? The one big huge thing that I had to learn on my own skin, or better on my miniatures on skin, is that nobody is really teaching you how you should let the bristle of your brush interact with your mini. You need to become aware of the different pressure and how that pressure affects the brush and the stroke you are producing. And it's the same thing for picking up paint. If you want to develop that being delicate and achieve thin lines as fast as possible, you need to practice this even when you pick up the paint. So test this on the palette and on a spare base. The more pressure you put in, the thicker the line. The less pressure, the thinner the line. It's all about being delicate as flour. But how does that help? Well, it needs something else in order to work properly, which is the third guy for the job. It's gonna help you avoid streaks, which is when paint won't leave the brush, and paint expanding, which is when the paint ends up in areas you don't want it to end up in. So what's the solution? You just need the perfect base coat consistency. And for this, you need way less water than you think. I always mention that intermediate and beginner painters tend to over thin their paints a lot. I was there too, and it kind of worked against me a lot, leading to chalkiness and uneven layers. Ew. So here is how you fix it. Add a drop of water, add a drop of fresh color. Avoid paint that's been on the palette for a while now because it might be either over thin or just too dry. Pick up the paint, move it aside, dip the brush in the water and add it to the paint. And then you test the flow. It's all about developing that sensation, that flowing motion, that the right consistency gives. Different paint have different coverage, but if you use army painter paints or AK paints, you shouldn't be worried too much about that. But of course, there are differences between both what color are you using, for example, yellow versus blue, and which brand of paint. AP paints and AK paints are pretty good. You can just thin it just a bit, small bit, and you're good. But what's the harsh truth for me in this? Well, this could be you as well, so you might listen. For me, painting thin hedge highlights, thin lines takes a lot of focus. And if I don't concentrate, if I don't focus enough, I'm gonna have shaky lines. And my hands are gonna win. So yeah, try to remember that if you have shaky hands, you're gonna have on other times than other people. But it doesn't mean you won't get there. Most important thing is that you practice and use these 3 acts. Those are gonna help a lot. Consistency is probably one of the big ones. The way you use a brush and move the pigment around and the consistency of the paint, they're kind of intertwined. Okay, but how? Well, I explain all that and more in a 90 minutes deep dive I have linked in the description. So go check that out. I think it's gonna be a lot of help for you, and see you there. Or you'll see the past when I shot that was I think it was